I'm elated to be standing here today to have the benefit of hindsight to talk a little bit about Apeel's science's journey in bringing a plant-based product to market that doubles or triples the shelf life of fruits and vegetables using plants. And it's been a 10-year journey. And so this benefit of hindsight, when I think about the world, it's often useful to put things in the context of other big, challenging changes that we've gone through as a species. And I'm probably biased because I'm a material science engineer by training, but I'm really enamored with this idea that in hindsight, anthropologists have defined the age of human development according to the materials that we've had available to us. So if you think back to school, you probably remember hearing about the Stone Age. You probably remember something about the Bronze Age, the Iron Age, even the Silicon Age. When I ask myself these questions, I wonder what anthropologists would call today's age that we're in today. And maybe they would call it the fossil fuel age, but I think they'll probably end up calling it the plastic age, at least the specific part of time that we're in right now. So I asked myself, if we were going to nudge out of this age and into another age that would define our progress as a species, if you like my argument, it might be defined by the materials that we use or decide to take advantage of. And so what might those be? Well, I don't know the answer to that, but I think there's some exciting opportunities if we look to nature. Things like the color in a butterfly wing being produced without any sort of environmentally damaging pigments. Things like energy from renewable sources that occur naturally just because of our place in the solar system. Or even opportunities to benefit from the billions of years of trial and error that nature has had in the form of plants to find solutions to problems that we could benefit from. So, as putting this kind of in context, it is really important because the magnitude of the problems that we have to tackle right now are absolutely massive. Most of the easy problems have been solved. It's mostly the really, really hard problems that are left. Things like, how do we have global mobility without polluting the environment? How do we produce energy that allows us to have constant access to energy while balancing the intermittency that we see from renewable sources? With healthcare, how do we shift from a paradigm where we're curing disease to a paradigm where we're preventing disease? Or in our food supply system, where we think a lot today at Apeel, how do we feed more people and take care of our planet at the same time? And I think it really helps to start zooming in on these problems. When we stand back and look at them, they're kind of overwhelming. But when we start zooming in, the problems start to reveal themselves. How can it be that 1 in 9 people are going hungry when 3 in 9 pieces of food are being thrown away? And at the same time, all this waste is responsible for about 10% of our greenhouse gas emissions as a species. So it seems like there's something we can do here. So we zoom in even further and ask ourselves the question, for people that are most food insecure, for the populations that have the most challenge eating, what challenges are they facing? What's the root of this issue, why people are going hungry? And by working with small farmers, we found that the problem isn't actually one of production. It's the fact that we're not able to produce that food. You're only able to produce it during a certain season of the year. And after that season's over, you don't have access to that food until next year. So it's really a problem of perishability. And so the question that we find ourselves facing is, how do we make more time for food? And fortunately, we go back to this framework or this idea that maybe our advancement as a species will be reliant on the types of materials that we decide to use to create our tools. And I go back to this idea that nature has such an incredible head start. It has billions of years of trial and error to figure out solutions to these problems. We ask ourselves the question, if I put a strawberry on the counter and I wait for a couple of days, and I put a lemon on the counter and I wait for a couple of days, the strawberry melts into a puddle, but the lemon can last for a month. Why is that? Some food has time and other food doesn't have time. And we think that by answering that question, what does the lemon know that the strawberry doesn't, that we can create time for food and help feed more people and take care of our planet. But we're not alone in thinking that this framework might be an important one, that this idea that there are solutions out there, alternatives to meat products, plant-based meat, plant-based dairy. We see people using biology to do manufacturing today. Even bio-based innovations to replace some of the plastic use that we have. But it's really strange for me to stand here and talk about the science part and to tell you, looking back on the 10 years of our journey, to say that that part may have actually been the easy part. The hard part that we find ourselves confronting is, how do we take these technologies that have all of these advantages and make them work within the context of the system that we're a part of today? And I can only tell you from a data set of one, but I always find it useful to share a little bit about our journey. And it all started with the concept, the idea on a napkin. The only thing that should be on our food is food. Could we find a solution that would allow us to reduce food going bad so we could feed more people? And we didn't know how to get started. We didn't have any money, so we just came up for a name for the company. We named it Apeel, and we made this first logo. And that was a start. That got us started. That turned this into something that we could put our time into. But then, of course, we had to prove that this was possible. We had to actually show that this technology could be created. And we had to raise some money to be able to do that. And then after raising the money to be able to do that, we had to actually show that not only could we create more time for food, that creating more time for food created economic value for people that were already participating in the food system today. That wasn't a given. And so we had to do this through our go-to-market strategy. And then the beautiful kind of result of all this is the opportunity now, with the demonstration of the technology and how it creates economic value in our existing food system, to partner with other people, many of whom are probably sitting in this room thinking about these same problems, who see an opportunity to take advantage of these these technologies to build systems that actually can look after more people and our planet at the same time. And so my call to action or thought to leave everyone with this in this room is, we can talk about clean energy, but we have to understand the established economics that we're displacing when we do that. What can clean energy bring that the existing economy doesn't have the advantage of today? We can talk about a materials transition, but how do we compete with the cost and the convenience of plastics? And something that we think a lot about at Apeel, how can we build sustainable supply chains when participants in the system are really only looking to minimize cost? They're not looking today at the full balance sheet of, actually, by reducing waste, we can create economic value. And so There's no time to waste. I can tell you from my 10 years of building Apeel that these transitions take a long time. Energy transitions, 50 years. And we have some big goals. We want to reduce waste by 50% by 2030. But maybe it's less daunting when I think about and I think back on our 10 years that this quote really maybe best summarizes the energy and attention that we've put into this, that we're not going to discover new lands without losing sight of the shore for a very long time.
Hello. It's a pleasure to be here today, and I'm going to start by showing you a jacket. This jacket I bought about 10 years ago, and I bought it because of my brother, and that's the only reason I bought it. The story is, about 40 years ago, he bought a jacket from Patagonia that was a puffy red jacket, and he took it with him salmon fishing. And then what happened was that he ripped it to pieces on the boat. He took that jacket and he shipped it back to Patagonia. Patagonia repaired it without any questions. Over the course of the next 40 years, my brother sent that jacket back 3 times, and 3 times Patagonia repaired the jacket. Right now, he has a jacket he loves, and he absolutely adores Patagonia, and it's the only company that he will buy from, and it's the only company that he will allow his little sister to buy his jackets from. So, when I got my job at Patagonia, he was thrilled. He was more excited than I was, and I think for the first time in my life, I think he finally recognized that he might have a sister who is worth knowing. Now, I'm telling you that story because I think it's relevant. As we look into the climate crisis as business leaders today, we have to make choices, and we have to make choices where we don't know what all the answers are. We have to make choices that are based on the right thing to do, where we don't know what the outcome is going to be. And it's up to us. We are like those founders back in the 1970s. What are we going to do? So, the first question is, should we act? And if so, how do we act? And with that, I'd like to show you a picture. And the reason I want to show you a picture is because it's so easy to forget statistics. But this picture, ever since I saw it, has really stuck in my head. So I want to share it with you. So if you could put the slide up, please, I'd be really grateful. Right. So this picture says 3 things to me. You see a COVID wave, and a recession wave, a climate wave, and then nature tsunami sort of lurking right behind it. The first thing it says to me is that the problem is urgent. If we look at where we are now, we're around 1 degree warming. If we go up to 2 degrees warming, we lose all the coral reefs. And if we lose the coral reefs, 1 billion people will face famine because there won't be enough fish in the sea. The problem is urgent. The second thing is that the problem is really big. I found a bit of research last week, it was just published, that showed, or basically that said, that the economic impact of climate change, if you look at it in a couple of decades' time, is going to be as if we had a COVID recession every year, twice a year. That's how big it is. And the last thing about this chart and picture that I really love is that it shows nature. It's so easy to always think about, emissions, technical solutions, and so on. And actually, a really big part of the solution is nature. Nature can provide 30% of the absorption of carbon that we need in order to be able to hit net zero. Nature protects us, looks after us. Nature is an important part of the solution. So that's why I really like that drawing. But you could say, okay, that's fair enough. It's a big problem, but why does business need to act? And I think there I would point to you about the urgency of it. if you look at how governments are now, they used to lead. They used to set direction. But if you look at the divided society now, the way that politics works, what ends up happening is that government is always looking to business for permission to go ahead. And if we wait for business to act, if we wait for government to act, it will be too late. So I guess the other thing that's worth bearing in mind is that business is sort of 75% of GDP. If we don't act, it's not, the problem isn't going to be solved. So that's why you need to act. The question is, what do you need to do? And as Patagonia, I'd like to sort of share our views and also share some of our learnings, because it's been an interesting and actually quite a difficult journey that we haven't fully resolved yet. And so I'd like to, be honest with you and share some of those difficulties with you. So in terms of action, I think there's three things that need to happen. One is that we all need to drastically reduce emissions. The second is that we need to get rid of offsets. That was terrible. We need to reduce emissions, we need to offset well, and we need to offset in nature. And the third thing we need to do is we need to use our voice. Now, when we started this process, we did an analysis, and we had a carbon neutral target, and we decided that we wanted to, stretch ourselves further and go for a target that was aligned with Paris, and we wanted to have absolute emissions reductions of our own and also throughout our supply chain. Now, we did the analysis, and we pulled every single lever that we could. We thought about selling, more secondhand clothes, changing our processes, 100% renewables. We scaled back growth substantially. And what we found is that we couldn't do it. It's possible. And the reason we couldn't do it is because 86% of our emissions came from factories that we don't control, where we are a small buyer from those factories. And, it was a bit of a aha moment for the organization, because we had thought we were going to go ahead and do this, but we couldn't make it work. And it was a sort of relatively junior member of the team that came up with a way of insetting, a way of working with our competitors to set up financial structures within our supply chain that will enable us to make real world reductions. And it was only through that we thought, okay, it looks like we just might be able to do this. Yes, it's not absolutely within the rules as they exist at the moment, but it's real world reduction, so we feel that that's the right thing to do. And are we comfortable working with our competitors in this way? Not really, but I think we all have to do things nowadays and into this crisis that make us uncomfortable. So that was emissions. The next is offsetting. And I think with offsetting, it was another really deeply uncomfortable space, because it's full of greenwashing. People are using it as an excuse to not cut their emissions. However, it's really important remembering two things. The first is the wave picture that I showed you. That nature crisis is lurking behind the climate crisis. And if we don't start to do things to protect us, we're in trouble. The second thing is to remember that nature is 30% of the solution. So it's really important that we do offsetting, but what I would recommend to you is to say that is a leader is to ask your teams to do offsetting and do it well. The last thing I want to talk to you is about voice. Patagonia has taken risks ever since it was formed, and supported grassroots activists and been very vocal. That's really unusual for a company, and it might not be what you're comfortable with. But I go back to that point about government being followers. If we are going to act in time, then businesses together need to lobby the government for what we need. And that's aggressive goals and the conditions in which we and society can be successful in this. If we don't use our voice, we will not succeed. And so how you use your voice is up to you, but just remember you have a powerful voice and the world needs you to use it. So what now? I've talked about why you need to act. I've talked about, how you need to act. It's not easy, but, if we work together, we can figure it out. And so I'd like to go back to my brother's red jacket. Because at that time, when those founders made that decision, they didn't know what the commercial outcome was going to be. But what I can tell you, and what I can tell you about Patagonia that's happened ever since, is that that tension between doing the right thing and making profit has driven innovation. Time and time again, when we have not been able to solve a problem, somebody on our staff has solved it for us. The other thing about it is it has electrified our staff. Our staff has one of the highest retention rates of any company in the world. The other thing about Patagonia is that we have the number one corporate reputation in the world because of those decisions. We have sales. Our sales could be far higher if we chose to grow further in the way that the world wants us to grow. What I'm saying is that if you make the right decision, it can work. And so now you have a choice. You can wait until you're forced to act, or you can act now and you can leave a legacy. Which is it going to be? Thanks so much.
So hello everybody, my name is Guive Balooch. I'm really happy to be able to be here in Berlin today and share a little bit of our story in L'Oreal about how we're approaching green tech. So just to give you a little background on me, I've been at the company around 15 years, and the past 10 years, my job has been trying to find a way to connect beauty and technology to find new services for our consumers. And the overall mission of our team is to really try and solve the big issues today that have been around forever with beauty consumers through technology. And every year, since the moment we started in 2014, we've been bringing new projects and programs around technology to see the shift from regular topical products to services in areas like personalizing your shade for the perfect foundation, to measuring the amount of UV exposure that you have, which is the one on the 2016, which we launched at the Apple Store, and really trying to push the boundaries every year with how we can bring the beauty of tomorrow. And one of the reasons I'm here today is because our newest area that we're really trying to innovate on within the group is around how sustainability can be disrupted and how we can use new ways to provide the commitments that we have as a company and organization using technology. And it really goes into the values that we have as a group. So we have in our group 3 real values. The first value is what we call individuality or inclusivity. This idea that every human being on the face of the earth should have access to the perfect product for them. The second is around performance, this idea that the beauty of tomorrow will not only be one that reduces carbon footprint and makes the world a better place, but also provides the performance that our consumers are yearning for. And the third is around sustainability, a tech for a better world. So I'm going to obviously spend some time on the third one and let you know a little bit about our newest initiative around water tech and what we're trying to do as an organization to bring green sciences and technology to a new level for the group. So I'll start with really a question that we've asked ourselves on the team. The question we asked is really coming from an insight, which is today when you look at all the salons around the world, the millions of salons, the hair salons around the world, as the moment that you turn on the lights to when you turn off the lights, there's water consumption. People are using the water in the back bar to do shampoos and conditioners and treatments. And it's true that, we can find ways to bring low flow shower heads to the salons, but it will compromise the consumer experience. And the salons always want to make sure that their clients have the perfect consumer experience. So we try to tackle this through a question we ask ourselves, which is how can we save water for the planet, but also at the same time maintain the delightful experience people have when they're in a salon. And it gave birth to this project that I'm going to tell you about, and we have in the back the actual project here. But before I go there, just to say really what our commitment as an organization is in sustainability doesn't just stop at water. We really have these 4 different areas and social commitments that we believe as a company in terms of climate, in terms of water, biodiversity, resources, the fact that renewable energy in our factories, renewable water in our products, packaging, and there's so many different areas that as a group we're trying to innovate on in an industry where there's a lot of consumption. And we find that water is something very important for us because, as we all know, it's becoming really a commodity as we go and more into the future. Not just for developing countries, but also for countries like Germany and in the US and everywhere. So to tackle that, we partnered with a company that's a startup in Switzerland called Guive, and they've developed this really unique technology. Basically how the technology works is instead of using a low flow system, they actually use collision fraction mechanics where the water itself collides and the droplet becomes 10 times smaller while it's in a shower head. And when you do that, what happens is that the flow of the water and the rinseability when it's on your hair is similar, if not better, than a regular flow shower head, but you save 80% of the water. And we didn't stop just there at just the water itself. Because the droplets are really small, what you can do is you can also infuse products into a system that we develop with them that allows you to bring the formula out while you're doing the treatment for the client. And what that allows you to do is not just reinvent the way the water is brought to the consumer, but also allows you to personalize the formula. It allows you to give people information about, as it's a connected system, what formulas were used when they were at the salon. It gives information to the salon owner about how much water they've saved, how much electricity they've saved. Because of the amount, if they lose 80% less water, then there's less electricity used to heat the water. And if by doing this, what we really believe and what we're committed to is continuing to give innovation to the market, but also by reducing the amount of consumption of water dramatically for the clients as well as for the salons. So one of the things that I think is very interesting about this project for us is that beyond the fact that we're providing new services and we're saving water, is really the amount we can make an impact in this type of distribution. If you think about it today, we've millions of salons around the world. Just by having this technology in 10,000 salons, we can save around 3.5 billion liters of water per year. And it doesn't at all reduce the experience for the consumer, for the salon, it actually increases it. And one of the reasons why we try to make this entire system personalized is because we think the future, and one of the areas we're really innovating on in our organization in terms of chemistry, is bringing products as powder forms, not just having a lot of plastic bottles with liquid, but you could imagine the future as all kinds of treatments for the hair with powder. And if you have that powder, then you can actually bring it through the system and you can reduce not only the amount of water and electricity, but the plastic that you see in the actual salon itself. So we have a lot of ambition for this project and we're really excited to start rolling it out. And of course, beyond that, we also have started working with the startup Guive to design it, but make also an at-home version. So you'll see at the bottom left of the screen a little attachment that would go into your house, connected, creating a sense of community, being able to tell your neighborhood how much water you've saved, being able to tell your community and your city how much water you've saved, but not compromising the experience of rinsing the product, which is one of the things that people love about being able to, go to a salon or take a shower with the products that they have in their bathroom. And so I end you just on a small video that's about a minute long that kind of shows you the two technologies, and you can see. And of course, we invite you to come and take a look at it for yourselves in the back. We call the system the L'Oreal Water Saver. And you'll see that the actual products can attach onto the system itself. And my point about how the water droplets are 10 times smaller, you'll see that in the second part of the video, where you can then mix inside the machine any treatment. Because the droplet is so small, it allows foaming of the product much faster. And we have a version of this which doesn't have the full connected system either, just the actual shower head, which will be sold to salons for less than $100. So we can really increase the amount of penetration. And that's the dashboard that will tell you about how much savings you've had in the salon, how much money savings, how much electricity, and the at-home version right there on the bottom right. So I hope I've given you a little bit of an idea of what we're trying to do, at least in my team in technology and beauty. But I think there's a huge amount of potential when it comes to innovating in this space, and we hope to continue that, and really happy to have been able to show it to you. Thank you very much.
Hello, everybody. It's great to be here, and it's great to see real people and to feel this location. So thank you for joining. My name is Christian, and I am an applied geographer. So not one of those walking around with maps. What we try to do is we try to understand the interrelation between people and location, right? So we all understand that a location can determine how we see the world. I mean, sitting here is a different environment for you than sitting on a beach or walking in the forest. And we as people change locations permanently by building structures and infrastructures, streets, cities, and all that kind of stuff. So frankly, I would say a location is a pretty powerful tool. It's also a pretty powerful tool to change and to talk to people. But we treat locations superficially. So how often do you think about a location, right? Maybe not so often. Okay, so after I graduated a couple of days ago, I decided to work in advertising in several agencies. And somehow, finally, it took me back to my roots, and now I'm working for a company which is called Ströer, and Ströer is a German media company, and Ströer is dealing with locations. So what we do is we are managing locations all over Germany, hundreds, thousands of different locations, where we have several rights to do something with a location. And actually, this is just covering a very little amount of space in Germany, because the country is big, but a lot of people's attention. 85% of the Germans are passing by these locations every week. So it's huge, it's really broad. You're reaching a lot of people. And we have rights to use these locations, and what we do is we put billboards there and screens and all kinds of stuff, and we try to communicate to people. Because we think it's a good spot to communicate to people, because you're not disturbing people, right? When people are passing by, a picture, a board or whatever, they can continue to pass. And it works like an unwittingly reminder in their mindset. It's being repeated, but it doesn't disturb you. It doesn't stop you watching content or watching a movie or surfing a website. That's what makes it such a powerful means of communicating to people. And it happens every day. You're passing your locations every day, And for a brain to learn, it needs a lot of repetitions, right? We all know we are slow in learning, so we need repetitions to learn, and finally, ideally, to change our mind. We think we can help the movement. That's why we are here. And we think we must leave the filter bubble because, I mean, all of us are living in the Berlin Mitte filter bubble. So we're very much aware of the problem, of the magnitude of the problem, of solutions, and we more or less all agree on this, right? But we also understand that we are just a few. So we need to bring it outside the bubble to those 85% of people in all these German cities who don't care much about sustainability and about changing green. And this is why it's important to use locations. Locations are a powerful mean to change minds and to do that in a very smart way. So we have a couple of ideas how we can use locations in a different and a smart way to achieve it. 3 ideas, 3 things, right? The first one, if you have a location, you can apply hardware. You can apply, for instance, moss, green plants, anything that changes and reduces emission. You can use a location to reduce emission. You can, for instance, also add filter technology. You can easily add sensors that give you data. You can add data model that explain what's going on and that might help you to manage locations in a better way. All this is shown on our booth downstairs, and you're very much welcome to come over and give us your ideas and give us your views. Second, one thing about it, right? It's tiny. We understand the effect in really changing emissions is tiny. If you have a filter system or if you have a moss filter or something like this. But the effect in recognition is a very big one. So when you're waiting on a bus shelter and you see a big green roof, it changes your mind. It tackles your mind. It nudges your mindset. And you might behave differently in the future. That is the important part. Second, you can use a location to improve existing systems. A very valuable system for switching green is public transport, because the more public transport we're using, the less combustion. Very simple. So a location can make public transport smarter by giving you what you need to like the system. So what do you want to do when you use public transport? You might want to wait. So you need a shelter. You might want to get information. You might want to get orientation. You might even just want to charge your device. And probably the system needs to know what you want in order to give you a better service. All these are means to use locations in a different way to make, for instance, public transport better. And that's also what we do. Third one, we use location to nudge minds, to trigger people with information. I mean, probably sounds very easy, but it's not so easy because you need to hit exactly what people want to hear. So you need to have the right message at the right situation, at the right time, at the right place, which is not so easy. I hope that you guys have all seen the GreenTech campaign on the way to the conference, right? Stop doing bad, start doing good. I mean, that's a very easy but very smart way to trigger minds. So what we are currently doing is we're also building content channels where we work together with influencers in order to have the right message in the right kind of voice that is being understood by people. We call it the green voice. And we hope that by doing so, this location more or less becomes a green portal, giving you green content and green context to really change your mind. So, as I said, we are open for active collaboration. So please, if you have any idea, suggestion, don't hesitate to come by. We're down there, we have a booth. a nice location where we try to demonstrate you how to treat locations in a smart way. And we think this is a pretty powerful tool to leave the filter bubble, get broad, and bring the message down up to everybody and change minds for a better world. So thank you very much for joining here, for celebrating change together with us, and for giving us insights, ideas, and inspiration. Thank you.
Welcome. Very happy to be here today. Sustainability has many facets, and we know that they are now touching all aspects of our life. Let's start with some fun facts. We are a very warm day today in Berlin, and did you know that the 5 warmest years on record took and have occurred during the last decade? We always speak about global warming, that's reality today. Already 3.2% of people in Germany are vegan. We just heard that from Stefanie Giesinger. And we are the highest numbers of vegan in Europe. And that can have an amazing impact on our society. Beef has a water footprint 3.5 times higher than chicken and 8 times higher than the vegetarian options. Last but not least, plastic waste. Are you aware that 40% of the plastic consumptions is linked to packaging? And I see that as a key opportunity for us as the industry partners to have an impact on the future and the consumption of plastic. Myself, I have been working for a cosmetic company many years, and I think on my own, I sold millions of plastic bottles. And that's why on a private level, I really try every day to offset my plastic consumption to the best. Working at Facebook, I am very committed to make the change and use our platform for the good. What we are doing, I'm leading our efforts in EMEA, together in collaboration with our business partners in order to create change and help them, inspire them, educate them. On the private side, I am also a board advisor for Plastic Bank, one of the previous winners of the GreenTech Festival Award 2 years ago. They are helping poor people in emerging markets collecting plastics, then recycling it and reselling it as social plastic, and so creating a human and ecological impact. My name is Marie-Ève Schröder, and I'm very happy to be with you today. So when you look at the last month, the pandemic, we all had the chance to reassess and reevaluate what really matters for us. And this has been the case of 1 to 2 people saying that actually their value set have changed. And when we look about the behavior, we are observing that nearly everybody has said that this change that we have been experiencing are not only a change due to the pandemic or to a new lifestyle, but they are here to stay. They will be defining the new ways of the future will be. And this creates a lot of responsibility, not only for us as individuals, but also as a company, as partners, as brands and company. 83% of our consumers are asking brands that they should use their social channel to create a sense of community. And that's why when you work together now in marketing and sales, everybody is talking more about brand purpose, about sustainability footprint, about responsibility. So what I brought you some examples of topics which have been completely rising during the pandemic and during the last 12 months. For example, sustainable fashion in UK or e-bike in Germany. I'm sure many of you already have an e-bike at home. That has been a big hype. But also sustainable living. These topics have been rising because people have been reconsidering the way how they want to live and their commitment to a more sustainable lifestyle. 580 million of our users are interested in sustainability topics and are exchanging every day, participating in the conversation. This is a huge opportunity for us and a huge opportunity for our partners to join the conversation. Facebook has the ambition to be an actor for change. We want to be a platform for good. And for this, we have defined our mission. Enable growth for all businesses through sustainability actions built on the power of Facebook connections and community. And for this, we started with ourselves. We have been working deeply on improving our footprint, and we are very proud to say that already at the end of last year, in 2020, we reached the net zero emission for all our global operations. And we have the ambition until 2030 to integrate all our global supply chain and reach the net zero as well. We are using 100% renewable energy and have been in 2019 the most important buyers of renewable energy worldwide. But we have other targets. When we have a platform like ours with the reach that we can offer to our partners, we have also responsibility. And we want to, first of all, inform, educate, and inspire our users and partners. First of all, inform. Last year, we had two main innovations that we launched and which are available for everybody. First, the Climate Conversation Map. The Climate Conversation Map is a map that you can have access to, everybody, showing all the different countries and illustrating the fraction of conversation which is used on climate change or global warming in your country, showing the relevance of this topic for all different stakeholders, from the politics but also from the economical side. Second, and maybe you remember what Facebook launched last year together with the World Health Organization around the pandemic, the COVID Information Center, fighting against misinformation about the virus. We learned a lot from this experience and decided to launch the Climate Science Information Center. We launched it last year in September in collaboration with the most recognized scientific institutes to be sure that people can find a source of information about climate warming, about climate change in a reliable way. Second step, I spoke about education. Facebook is giving a lot of education for free through blueprint formats, different seminars that we are offering. Last week, we just created a new format, which we call Green Boost, for all our partners, small and medium-sized companies. 1.4 million of them just joined our training last week, where we gave and share best practices on how you can build your business on Facebook, reach your consumers, and have a sustainable but also successful business together. Then the last one, inspiration. Inspiration is core for us. And we have been just launching, and I really encourage you to look at it, a new video series which we call The Rethinkers. And here we display creators, innovators, new entrepreneurs. We have been creating new ideas, green services, green products, leveraging our platform to reach their own community for the best and being successful in the different regions of Europe. Look at it, it's very inspiring. And last but not least, our consumers are using our platform to inform, educate, and inspire each other as well. You may have heard from Facebook groups. A lot of them are taking place in Berlin because Berlin is a place for sustainability and for sustainable behavior. And people are joining groups, getting tips, inspiration, do it yourself, exchange the best tips, the best brands, and that's a place where we also can collaborate. So the conversation is taking place on our platform, and I just gave you some examples about the different industry, what we can observe, and that has been actually across and holistic along all the different industries, no matter which field you are active of. If it is eco-activism, when we speak more about maybe nearly advocacy, but also green products, green shopping, green home lifestyle, we spoke about naturally the future of auto and mobility. All this topic has been rising a lot on our platform. So the only thing which I can encourage you is to join the conversation. We are the platform to be. We want to be the platform of choice for all sustainable partners, and that is the call for action that I wanted to tell you today. Because I really believe that we all can make the change. We all can make the difference. But I also believe that we can all make the difference much faster if we do it together. So thank you very much for your attention. I'm really happy to join the panel today. Have a great GreenTech Festival 2021. So great to be live with you today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Beth on the screen,
nice.
and
Hello.
we couldn't show you the Slido code in advance, so I have the code for you. If you go on slido.com, and if you want to ask any questions to our panelists, please enter the Slido code 93078. 93078. If you have any questions, I will receive them on this tablet here. Code is 2020, so if you find the tablet, we already have some questions. I know, they didn't update it since last year.
Euro.
It's like the soccer.
It's like the soccer.
Also 2020.
Yes, exactly. So, James, actually speaking to you first, since you're sitting right next to me. Apeel Sciences. Now, this is such an incredible product. And since I've prepared for this panel today, I've actually realized it's everywhere these days. Now, in the supermarkets. But speaking about regulatories and actually bringing it to the supermarket and being allowed to publish a product like this, what have been the biggest borders for you, the biggest, obstacles you had to overcome?
Yeah, it's amazing to walk into Edeka stores around Germany and pick up these avocados, because it's been a 10-year journey for us. And it started if I think about the journey, it started with the invention, like the idea on a napkin. Could we use food to preserve food? Like, that would be worth building. We didn't know if we could do it. So we had to kind of figure out the invention and the science. And then it was, wow, we can't, this isn't going to work if it costs us $1,000 to save a single avocado. So we have to figure out, how can we do this in a way that is going to create more value than it costs? And then we had to figure out a business model, because we started talking to the growers, and the growers said, why would I want my fruit to last longer? If my fruit lasts longer, then people are going to throw away less of it. And if they throw away less of it, I'm going to sell less. And so we had to figure out the right incentives. So we had to go to the grocers, because they were throwing away so much food, sell the product to them. And then we had to figure out how to build these supply chains that would be able to deliver the produce 52 weeks a year. So it's 10 years worth of work. And the reason that we had the confidence to do it was because our ethos was, we're only going to use food to create our products. And that, although it was uncertain what the regulatory path would look like, we knew, because we were using things that we were found in every bite of fruit and vegetable we ate every day, that it was possible. And the work really was not around the formulations themselves, because they're made of food. It was around, how do you regulate this? This is a new thing. This is a new category. Who is in charge of saying this is okay? And so that actually was probably the hardest part, was figuring out who to talk to, how to do that, and it ends up being the European Commission.
So actually, in Germany, we tend to be really bureaucratic. Was it more difficult to get it regulated in Germany, to get it allowed?
No, the wonderful thing about Germany is that it's a very fact and data-based system. And the challenge actually is just coordinating with all of the different member countries of the EU, because everyone has their own things that they're looking after, and so it's really just a matter of process and waiting. So if just given the sense of determination around sustainability in Europe, we probably would have gone to market first in Europe before the United States, if the regulatory path was faster.
Marie-Eve, behind the stage, you said digitalization and sustainability come together. It has to work together. How do you live that at Facebook?
Yes, I think you're right. Digitalization and sustainability work a lot together, and we have seen that a lot in the last months. During the pandemic, we all went digital. I mean, many of our customers, many of our clients suddenly realized that digitalization was not an option anymore, but it was a way how to continue to live, but also continue to work and continue to reach the consumer they had. So I really believe that through digitalization, we not only can improve our traveling footprint. I mean, for us, it's amazing to be here today, but it is probably the first occasion we had to come together, and many of our people observing and looking at us today are doing it from home. So I think digitalization will allow us to reduce significantly our footprint in terms of traveling. For Facebook, it is also the way how to build community. That's something that we hear and we say a lot. And we believe a lot also in this local economy. You just spoke about avocado coming maybe from far away. We believe that the local economy can be an opportunity which is here to stay for long. Finding small companies and helping them to find the consumer in a very local stage is optimization of our footprint. AI, the things that we are living from, is something also which is going to help a lot for supply chain, for production and consumption planning in order to avoid waste, avoid consumptions of energy, avoid consumptions of water. We have been using this technology a lot, even in our data center. Data center are creating a lot of energy. And thanks to new technology, we have been able to collect this energy. And I give you one example, which I think is amazing. In Denmark, in Odense, we have a data center localized very close to a small village, and the energy we collect have been reutilized and then feed the warm and the electricity for a full village of 7,000 people. So I think there is a lot of opportunity in combining digital knowledge with a more sustainable footprint, which is here to stay.
That's actually a good point of bringing things together that you could never have imagined a couple of years ago, bringing together. Which brings me to Guive. You mentioned beauty and tech teams. Now, beauty and tech. How does this come together?
Yeah, it seems like it's something in cahoots, but actually we've been working on this for a really long time. We started about 10 years ago thinking about how we should transform as a company, knowing exactly kind of the things that Marie-Ève was saying around the way people are experiencing products and services today, which is very related to the digital and physical world and this kind of combination of O to O. So we have this team together for almost 10 years. I've been doing the same job, which is how we can have a kind of small startup of tech, but also leverage outside and inside resources to develop kind of physical and digital innovations of the future. And we chose sustainability as one of our key values that we want to have for the future, because I think a lot of the trends that you see in beauty today are in a way an opportunity for sustainable development. For example, personalization, like people want to have the perfect product for them. That can reduce and make leaner supply chains. It can allow you to have the consumer play like with our new product, which is this product that lets you see a trend of lipstick and make it, and you can do hundreds of them with just 3 cartridges without having to buy hundreds of lipstick. And this kind of idea that being able to, bring consumers those trends, but through a sustainable angle, is something that we're really focused on in the team. So having a tech team in beauty seems like, different, but now after doing this for 10 years, for me it feels very, very normal now. But yeah.
It's probably getting normal for everyone around these days. We have a question for Beth, actually. So Beth, Anonymous asks, unfortunately no name here, how can individuals measure their impact when it comes to fashion? For example, who is sustainable, who's not, who's practical?
Right. Okay. I think the whole thing, the big trend that you see within fashion today is actually the move to secondhand. And it's not us, it's Zalando, it's many, many different organizations that are beginning to sell secondhand product right alongside new product. It's the fastest growing, I think it's growing by like 40% in the last year. It's absolutely astounding. And I think that's what you're seeing. It's one of those sort of underlying trends where young people are beginning to realize and think about sustainability. And, it makes an enormous difference. You could save roughly, I think it's about 82%. I don't remember the exact numbers, but the carbon footprint of a secondhand product versus a new product is profoundly different. And more organizations like ourselves and fashion organizations are moving into this. And I think, the thing is, when you think about what your impact is, it's about thinking about consumption. Are you only using what you really need? And I think that is where we need to move into the future. We need to reimagine how our society works. Thanks.
I personally think it is actually a personal thing that you can start off with. Really blunt example. Just for being here today for the festival, I'm a show host. Usually, for big occasions, you buy new stuff because you want to look sleek. But no, this year I might look old-fashioned today. I don't know. Did you buy anything new for the festival?
Not,
You're just wearing what you have. This is, I think, the first step towards a right mindset. What do you think, Beth?
I think you're absolutely right. I am. Sorry, I forgot the name of the Facebook person, but
Guive.
there's a profound. Thank you so much. There's a profound difference in society. People care more after COVID about the environment rather than less. That's a huge shift. And so that's what we're seeing in fashion and people's individual day-to-day choices. So personally, I think it's really exciting.
Absolutely. I have some questions. Where is the question? Christian, speaking about advertising, you mentioned it. You want to advertise and reach people at the same time, at the perfect timing, with the exact content they would need. How do you actually manage that in a regional way, and how does this come together with sustainability?
Well, I think advertising is, as sustainability is, a very local thing, right? Because attitudes are very different and habits are very different locally. If you compare Berlin, for instance, to Hamburg, it's like two different worlds. Although, both are big cities. And if you go to all those many cities nobody knows abroad, like Gelsenkirchen and Oberhausen and Wuppertal, but it's where the Germans are living, then you understand there is a strong local identity. And I think communication and changing minds is a local thing. To really hit the bull's eye, you need to think and act locally. And then it becomes national and global and the movement starts. But you have to start actually bottom up and not top down.
So actually, pretty simple thing we all know. Regional, most of the time, means more sustainable because there weren't as many transportation that has to have been going on before you get the product. So even advertising locally is sustainable.
Absolutely, yeah. Especially on the long run, if you see it strategically, because you will have more effect, right? In the beginning, you have more effort because you have to apply a campaign or an idea across several locations, and you need to. Genius demands effort, right? It doesn't go from itself. You need to do something to reach something. But my personal opinion is, at the end of the story, you're going to get out with more if you invest a little bit more in the beginning in effort.
When you look at about sustainable innovations, most of them come from very small companies.
Yes.
So that's why, all big companies here are doing an amazing efforts in creating new services, and that is amazing what you do in beauty tech. That is the future. But also a lot of innovations, a lot of new ideas are starting very small. And these people don't have the reach to go national, to go international to start with. But this will create the change for tomorrow. So I think that is so important to have the possibility to extend your impact locally first. And for this, all local solutions that we can offer to be well known, to have access to a new community, a new consumer, is essential for them to success. And that is sustainable success as well.
Yeah. Absolutely. And even the trending traffic in Facebook comes very much from localized tribes that add up to a total wave and add up to a new trend. But it's grown locally. It's not grown centrally in a headquarter of somebody saying, hey, this is what we're going to deploy now.
Absolutely.
I have an amazing question from Ronja asking, and this is a question actually to all 5 of you. How do you convince individuals who do not see their personal impact, their own immediate benefit from living a more sustainable, aware lifestyle? How do you convince people?
I don't think you do. I think you have to make the sustainable thing the easiest, cheapest thing to do. I think that
is it money?
You can't convince them. I think you have to convenience. It has to be, there has to be a me benefit.
I think by repetition. You need a lot of repetitions, and that allows people to learn. Repetition means learning.
Marie-Eve?
I believe in the sense of belonging, because we all want to do something good. I think I believe in depth, in the good in mankind, and I think if we just show what the options are and we inform people enough, they will make the right choice.
Guive?
I think, not forgetting the fact that consumers can still have a delightful and magical experience and also have a sustainable effort, and not forgetting that it's our responsibility not just to invent future sustainable technology, but also invent services and experiences that make them feel better about their beauty routines, better about their life, and not compromising that aspect of it so the adoption can become higher and higher.
And Beth?
Yeah, I do think that you can influence it. Absolutely. I think it's about understanding. It's about understanding that, we're not going to fix this problem without every single individual and every single business and every single government acting over the course of the next 10 years and showing the differences that individuals can make, in their individual choices around what they eat, what they wear. I think it's actually about communicating and developing understanding, because I agree. I think people want to do good. I think that's a fundamental issue, and they're held back by their perceptions of what people expect them to do.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Beth. And I would like to thank all of you. A big thank you, a big round of applause to Beth, Thoren, Marie-Eve Ströer, James Rogers, Christian von den Brincken, and Guive Balooch.
Thank you.
Put your hands together!